Natalism is, simply put, the promotion of or advocacy for childbearing. There's a bit more nuance to it than that though, especially in recent times with the rise of anti-natalism. With the developments of modern anti-natalism, which is quite predictably the position of being against childbearing, most often not as a universal truth or as a personal position, but as a stand on what the common opinion, the norm of society on childbearing should be. Moderate anti-natalism says that neither childbearing nor childlessness should be regarded as the norm, but be viewed equally. Radical anti-natalism takes this a step further in the anti-direction and says that not having children should be the norm, while fanatical or extreme anti-natalism supposes that no one should have children at all, and that in an ideal world that would be enforced. It is within moderate anti-natalism being the disruption of norms regarding childlessness or childbearing that it becomes more clear what natalism is, in modernity anyhow. The advocacy that childbearing should be the norm, and childlessness abnormal. Seems like an awful imbalance with the terms, but that's what you get with a positively charged, basic term such as natalism. Be as it all may with the imbalance of the terminology, let us this day take a gander at how fanatical natalism, the belief that people should be expected to have as many children as possible, could be enforced in a society through speech. Why I focus on speech today is because few give language the rightful credit it deserves. Sure, these thumbs have helped us build fires and houses, these thinking brains to understand the secrets hidden in the strangest sinews of the universe. But language has let us build civilization. It has very arguably let us to even think of these greater achievements in us to triumph through them. The role of language and the philosophies behind it, mere extension of linguistics again by the way, affect us to this very day and in every way. Think for a moment, would you, what comes to mind as I say a small family? And let's for simplicity's sake work on nuclear family grounds, in terms of a man, a wife and their children. Of how many children does the small family consist? 3, 2, only 1? Or what of a large family? 4, 6, or even 8? Of course this is conjecture, but conceivably people rather decide the general size of their family rather than its exact size. Subconsciously, that is. You could rightly disagree with that notion, considering studies and ideation generally suggest that family sizes are decided during the whole ordeal, rather than long beforehand, with the wants of the partner and financial situation to be considered and all that. Consider the effect of these terms of small and large family in communion with other changes though. If it is the norm to bear a large family, if it is the norm to have many children, then what is considered a large family or many children will most conceivably have an effect on how many children any given person has. Man's no island after all, and the societal expectations put on him will have an effect on him. Should the media, the law and whatever institution have you define a unit of 4 children or less as a small family, and anything over 8 as a large family, families of 5 to 8 children probably become more common generally. The societal norm of childbearing can't exactly come alone though, or can but works best if conjoined to other cultural virtues and societal norms. If a society favors patriotism, for example, and if childbearing is then defined as an act of patriotism, then people will be pressured to have more children. Religious values also work particularly well. To say, for example, that childbearing, to create life, is the ultimate purpose of man. For a more realized approach, consider political slogans like Australian Finance Minister Peter Costello's "one for mum, one for dad and one for country", or what I've often been told is an old Finnish adage of sorts about childbearing. One for father, one for mother, one for God, and one as a spare. Moving on to more concrete things, concrete issues, like judicial issues such as abortion, which is actually really only but a definitional issue. Well, the debate around it is a definitional issue, but to that in just a bit. First, why talk of abortion at all? In the modern age and industrialized world, abortion correlates with a decrease in birth rate. some 5 to 8% according to Guttmacher.org. So naturally to natalisms, especially fanatical natalisms, cause legalized abortion, at least to the extent that its law is in most of the West, is unsuitable. Now practically speaking in the modern libertarian world, and yes I do focus on the West here, it is untenable to simply ban women from the right to have an abortion just like that, just to increase birth rate. It can't be justified. Rather, abortion can only be realistically opposed in redefining it not as an act of ending unwanted pregnancy, but as quite literal murder, for lack of equally powerful a word, as one of the gravest sins, and especially the murder of an innocent. Thus, if it is believed that a fetus is a living human being, if it is said that life begins at conception, then aborting the fetus, murdering the baby, will be seen as unacceptable in most or all cases. I am positively persuaded that no moderate commentator will genuinely, with full understanding of what they mean and with the belief that life begins at conception, would dare to claim that the woman's right to express her right of bodily autonomy in abortion trumps the right of the fetus to life. Saying so would not only be a radical uprooting of Western morality in saying that the right to certain freedom bests the basic right to life, but also to say that not all have equal rights, namely the baby versus the mother here. Another radical uprooting of the basic values of the West. In addition to abortion, another medical advancement which has significantly lessened birth rate, or rather unplanned pregnancy, is condoms. Now the effect of contraceptives on decreased birth rate is quite minimal on a linguistic level, which is the focus of today, but oh well. There's a tiny connection there, namely the way condoms are spoken of. Saying that condoms prevent unwanted pregnancies is quite neutral, you see. Putting a more negative spin on the effect of condoms in media discussion, for example, saying something like it is proactive feticide, would likely change societal norms in relation to the use of contraceptives and subsequently cause more birth and or even a banning of contraceptives in law. Now some might rightly raise issue with banning contraceptives considering that they also prevent a lot of unwanted teenager pregnancies. But we shall conveniently skip talking about that for the most part, since it's a very sensitive and awkward issue. Now I've sort of been circling the issue for a bit now, but one must consider religion in terms of the natalist issue. There's a strong correlation between religiousness, certainly between devotional Christianity, and birth rate, as this graph from ifstudies.org shows. Well, of course this is specifically for America, but I'm sure it can be expanded to all the world, to all peoples. Ignoring the changes presented by predictably financial factors such as late 70s stagflation and 2008 recession, birth rate has stayed rather consistent for the last 4 decades, with the only noticeable trend really, again ignoring probably financial factors, being a downward slump after 2012 within non-religious circles. As general religious norms truly begin to die down within America, one can also clearly notice that births per woman among the non-religious are clearly less than among practicing Christians, which again are less than among devotional Christians. The cause for this is rather obvious. Christianity staunchly promotes the value of life. Atheism does not. Not that it opposes it either, but it does not promote it. Within the boundaries of atheism, having a child is only valuable because of personal values and preferences. Within those of Christianity, childbearing is objectively good, as defined by the gracious God himself. So an obvious way to increase birth rate is to promote religion. As has always been with religion, it is rather an easy thing to do. Hoi polloi are awfully easy to manipulate to believe whatever you tell them. Besides, not everyone has to truly believe. They just have to conform to societal norms of belief. To be virtuous, to have children. A few well-timed Christian apologists, though that of course is outside of our control, and more God-focused political speeches, as well as silencing of the opposition, is really all you need. Supposing a nation such as even 2000s America, let alone 20th century America, is fairly good enough itself to promote natalism, though waning towards modern irreligiousness and anti-natalism, in the late 20th and early 21st century, America was still fairly natalist because, though America was never per se a Christian nation, it was always a nation of Christians. Better yet is of course redefining the nation as a Christian nation so that the religious part of its society is harder to shake off and more pronounced. For the abstract purposes of fanatical natalist cause, though, the very best is to have a nation where church and state are not separated, where religious virtues affect all and control all governmental decision-making. Of course, this is a bit hard to do in the West generally, let alone in the Protestant West, since it's dogmatically conflictory. And besides, if you deny the existence of the Christian God, then it's an absolutely idiotic solution to propose. But hey, we don't care about very strict realism here anyway, let alone about facts. Brief side note, I will concede that Christianity is not in any particular regard superb at increasing birth rate, no more than any other religion that is. It is simply the religion which is already in the West. Anyhow, going with religion, marriage. The earlier people get married, the more time they will have to have children, and in communion with the other changes, the more children they will have. Again, the linguistic part of this is a bit more minor, but the way people speak of marriages can affect societal norms. Should the media say things like, the pair got married at the young age of 23, people in their mid-20s will be less worried about falling behind societal norms. But should the media say things like, well, okay, I don't have a very good example, but something to the effect of the pair got married at the old age of 25, I know, ridiculous. People will likely feel more inclined to get married sooner. Now therewith we have the linguistic elements of fanatical natalist doctrine, well, as far as I can conceive of them anyhow. To recap, they are redefining the sizes of different sized familial units, conjoining childbearing to other core values as an expression of them, redefining abortion as murder, speaking of contraceptives in negative manner in the media, promoting natalist religion, and promoting earlier marriages, which are all quite interwoven. I'll briefly note that societal and welfare changes such as longer maternal leaves and maternity packages would probably also increase birth rate, as people will be less worried of the effect of childbearing on their financial situation. One rather silly, more concrete thing which could be done is giving medals for those who have many children. The Nazis did this, but from what I know it hadn't any noticeable effect. But perhaps it could. If you feel I omitted something, do comment if you so will. If you feel I made no sense at all, don't fret. People very seldom understand me regardless of what I say and in what language. But I do want to note, in case that detail wasn't clear, I do not strictly support these things of which I speak. I am most ambivalent really towards the natalism discussion.